Ryan, why are you calling for the firing of General McMaster? Isn't he doing a good job? No, and watch on to learn why. Hi, I'm Ryan F. Gassian, and in this video, I'll make the case why National Security Advisor, former General H.R. McMaster, should be fired. Both the Telegraph and the Wall Street Journal has reported that the White House is considering a bloody nose strategy. In other words, a limited first strike wherever the North Korea tests another missile or nuke. The thinking behind this is that a humiliating first strike will discourage Kim Jong-un from acting out again. This is the brainchild of McMaster. I have just one question for the general. Do you know anything about Korean culture? I thought that was the job of a general, to know thy enemy. Maybe you can ask the ambassador to South Korea. Oh, wait, you can't. The Trump administration hasn't gone around to nominating an ambassador for that post. This is insanity, and worse yet, no one in the media has clued in as to why. In truth, some in the media think that McMaster's scheme has merit, that when Kim Jong-un doesn't retaliate, it will cause him to lose credibility in the international community because people will take his future threats less seriously. I have three words for why this kind of thinking is batshit crazy. Death before dishonor. In a previous video, I talked about my own experience in South Korea and the importance honor plays in their culture. Rather than rehash that, I'm going to leave a link in the description box below. Watch it if you're interested. Instead, I'm going to simply say that the worst thing you can do to a Korean is make them lose face. That is, in essence, what McMaster's plan is, and that's why it's going to get millions killed. For months, Kim Jong-un has said that if America attacks, he will respond with all-out war. His intention was to make him look tough. He's likely scared of fighting the Americans. He knows he can't win. The problem is that Kim has boxed himself into a corner. You see, his threats aren't just meant for the United States. They're also meant for consumption back home. Kim Jong-un is a young man. He is only in his 30s and already is running the country. Many in his own government are unsure if he's up to the task. That's why he killed his uncle. He was getting a point across. Don't mess with me. I'm tough. I'm mean. Hell, I even killed my own uncle. This is also why he assassinated his stepbrother, Kim Jong-nam. He feared that people in his own government might replace him with Nam, so Nam had to go. This is the problem with dictatorships. They only work so long as the dictator can prove that he's in control. McMaster's brilliant strategy takes a wrecking ball to that image, and what comes next won't be pretty. If Kim doesn't respond in kind, say bombs Seoul or attacks an aircraft carrier, then he will lose face. For a Korean, that's bad enough. Many Koreans would rather commit suicide than face dishonor, but for Kim, it's even more complicated than that. Remember, this guy is young, and any sign of weakness on his part might be interpreted by his generals that he isn't leadership material. Then they might consider taking him out and replacing him with somebody who they consider to be competent. As a result, Kim is a damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he doesn't retaliate, the United States will wipe North Korea off the map. But if he doesn't, he both loses face and proves himself to be an inept leader. He's a dead man walking. In this scenario, the preferred option for Kim is to go down swinging. Sure, his people will die, but Kim doesn't care about them. What matters to him is that he saves face. Oh, and for those Americans who don't care if there's a war, know that if there is one, you can kiss your superpower status goodbye. I'm not saying that such a war would deliver a crippling blow to the US, though if China and Russia gets involved, it would. No, I'm saying that if you throw your allies, the South Koreans and the Japanese, under a bus, then your remaining allies are never going to have your back again. We're never going to help you fight your wars or put sanctions on your enemies. You might say, fine, we don't need you parasites anyways. We're Americans. We're exceptional. But alas, that's just not the case. The only reason you Americans can bomb places in the Middle East with ease is because you've got a massive airbase in Qatar. But if its leaders don't believe you'll defend their nation, why should they let you maintain a base there? In total, you Americans have 800 foreign bases around the world. Do you honestly think you could force all of us to let you keep those bases if we decide to evict you? You might say, if that's how you're going to be, then we don't want those bases. Okay, but think about this. The petrodollar, or the system where nations buy and sell oil with only American dollars, depends on the cooperation of Saudi Arabia and the other oil exporters. The Saudis agreed to this in 1974 because you Americans told them you would defend them. If you went back on your word, well, they and the others might stop selling their oil in American dollars. The Federal Reserve would likely then have to raise interest rates to compensate, meaning that it would become more expensive for you to buy a car or own a house. It would also become harder for small businesses to get loans. Speaking of the economy, if there was a war, and should South Korea and Japan be devastated by having bombs dropped on their cities, that would affect markets around the world. These aren't tiny economies we're talking about. Japan's economy is the third largest, and South Korea's is the 11th. Both are tech giants with massive corporations, including Samsung, Sony, Canon, Toshiba, Panasonic, to just name a few. A war with North Korea would result in countless deaths, as well as untold property damage. Ignoring the human costs, which would make you a heartless bastard, the economic damage would cause stock markets around the world to crash and trigger a global recession. And who do you think we're going to blame? Kim? Kim will probably be dead at this point. No, we will blame you Americans. And while sanctions are likely not on the table, not yet anyways, though if things go from bad to worse, that day may come. And given that 70% of America's economy is based on consumption, that would mean the end for you. Regardless, things will get bad. Unemployment will go up. People will default on their mortgages. And those shiny new tax cuts your Congress passed, they're going to drag your economy down like anchors. You'll wish this was 2008. The fact is that you Americans need us, just as we need you. That is why what McMaster is suggesting is pure madness. Not only does it invite the prospect of nuclear war, but it threatens the international order and the world economy. McMaster needs to be fired as National Security Advisor, and the same is true of his boss. McMaster can only advise the president, and I wouldn't worry so much if Trump had half a brain. Use the 25th Amendment. Impeach him. I don't care. Trump needs to go, and Mike Pence needs to take his place. Otherwise, we might find ourselves all royally screwed. Thank you for listening, and please help my channel by liking this video and subscribing. Oh, and visit my website at www.darknessinamerica.com to read my short stories about a future United States where people live in fear of inquisitors, telepathic assassins who police the populace for thought crimes.